Welcome back. In this episode, we will be learning how to create a motion guide for our animation. We will be creating a fall banner for a website. So let's begin by going to File, New, opening up a new project. Click on 3.0, press OK. Under your Properties window, which can be found under Windows, Properties, you can change your frames per second. I changed it to 24 frames per second, which is the standard. And you can also change the size of your banner. Now, you can use the standard, or in this case, I'm just going to use 720 by 360. And what we're going to do right now is import an image. So let's name this layer BG, and this will be the background layer. We'll go to File, Import, Import to Stage, and we're going to go ahead and select a background image, which will be the Fall BG background image. And as you can see, the background image is far bigger than the actual stage. So what we can do is we can either make the stage bigger, or we can simply match the height and width. But in this case, I think what I'll do is I'll make the stage 720 by 486, and then I'll just click on the image and make this one 720 by 486, and also zero out the X and Y position. This is on the Properties panel, so that everything matches my stage. So as you can see underneath this, it matches the stage. If I want to bring it back, just zero out. Now that I have my fall scene in the background, I'm going to put a lock on it, and I'm going to create a new layer. In this new layer, I'm going to create a leaf. So let me double click, name it leaf, and I'm going to go to File, Import to Stage, and I'm going to bring the leaf.png image into the scene. Once I have the leaf here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to rotate it, put it on top on frame 1. I'm going to bring the pivot right down to where the stem is. And then what I'm going to do is extend both layers to roughly 100 by highlighting 100 and pressing F6. Or if you have a Mac keyboard, hold down Fn and then press F6. On the leaf layer, on frame 100, I'm going to bring the leaf all the way down to the floor. And it's going to be off screen. And now what I want to do is create a tween animation. So I'm going to select the first and last frame, or you can simply click on the layer until it's highlighted blue, and you can right click and create a classic tween. Now if everything worked out well, we will have the leaf that scrolls down from the top to the bottom. We can always change those pivot points for the bottom part here just by clicking on that little white pivot point, bringing it down to the stem. Same with the pivot point here. And then the next thing that we want to do is put this leaf on a motion path. And here's where the fun begins. We will right click on the leaf and select Add Classic Motion Guide. Once we have this guide, you will see a little this will be like a little layer that appears that says guide. And what we want to do is on that first frame of the motion guide, we are going to take our pencil tool, and it's important that you take your pencil tool, and we're going to create a few loops as the leaf comes down to the ground. Now, in order for us not to be distracted by the background, what we could do is hide the background layer, which is here, BG, by simply clicking the icon here with the eye, Xing that out. So now we're not distracted by the background image. So let's go ahead and hide that. And then let's go back to our guide. Click on the first frame. Make sure you click on the first frame. And let's begin to create our motion path. We're going to make some smooth loops. Now remember, you can also increase the smoothing, which we'll go over in a little bit. Once we have that motion guide, what we want to do now is make sure that our leaf, when we click on the leaf layer, that it has snap on. So make sure that the snap is on both ends. Make sure the snap is on beginning and end. It's checked on in the properties panel. And what you can see now is that the leaf is actually following that motion path. But you might want some changes, so let's go ahead and have a little fun with this motion guide. We can go ahead and pull some of these frames here. We can twist them just by selecting our sub-selection tool and pulling on this motion guide. So you can actually tweak some of these things here. And those little handles allow you to tweak the direction as well and create new angles. Right over here in the corner, it's not as smooth, so what we can do is smooth this out just ever so slightly. And maybe have this curve, maybe raise this up a little bit, just like that. And now let's look at the difference. Now what we could also do is give it a little bit of easing. So if we click on the leaf layer, you're going to see in the properties panel that you have a choice. You can ease into the animation, which means that it's not going to be so robotic. So let's go ahead and ease that animation a little bit, maybe bring it up to about 22. Okay. We could also add a little rotation, but for now let's keep it just with the ease so you can see the difference. So now when we control and play the animation, you're going to see that it's much more smoother. Going back to the leaf guide, I can probably decide that I can put my path lower here. Raise this up a little bit more. And tweak the path some more. And what I can also do is select the leaf and tweak the leaf itself. So if you select the leaf and select the lasso tool, not the lasso, the free transform tool, you can distort the leaf a little bit and rotate it as it moves through space. So if you put your mouse right over the selection, you'll notice that you can change and skew the way in which the leaf looks. So as it's floating down, you can put additional keyframes here on the leaf layer by pressing F6. And then what you could do is just rotate it so it's not always in the same direction and it has a little bit more character. Also, if you see the two parallel lines, you can skew the leaf a little bit to give it a more dimensionality here. So it's going to go from here to here. Once again, press F6. You can make it appear as if it's getting closer. Rotate a little bit more. And once again, it comes around here. Press F6. Give it another level of animation. And then of course it lands on the floor. Right about here I'm going to press F6 again, and I'm going to rotate it upwards towards the stem here, and then of course it lands on the floor. And so if we do control play and test the animation, you'll notice that we've given the leaf a little bit more natural flow as it comes down. And we can also make it a little bit bigger so it looks like it's in front of us, and we can skew the actual image just like this and rotate it. We can click on it and rotate it downwards. And so this is what we have. Now what we're going to do is unhide the background layer and control and play the animation again. And so we have this wonderful path animation. We can also insert a message. So we can create another layer, and this layer can be closer to the background. And this layer will be called the greeting. With the greeting, let's go ahead and grab the rectangular tool. Or you can even use a circle, whichever one fits best. And choose a color that you would like to deliver your message. I think what I'm going to use is a nice gray. And there it is. This will be my message. I'm going to grab this. And I'm going to move it into position somewhere near here. I'm going to right click and convert it to a symbol and call it greeting frame. And with this greeting frame, just make it a little bit bigger. I also want to control where it comes in. So I can move that keyframe and decide that this greeting frame comes in. Just click on it and drag it, that it comes in around the time the leaf passes. So right about here. So it's not always there, it just comes in. So, and I can also play with opacity. So on that greeting layer, on about frame 55, I'm going to press F6 and I'm going to play with opacity here. So it's going to start out at 0 opacity and then go into full. Okay, so let's go ahead and select this. Under color effects in your properties window, select that greeting panel. Under the color effects, switch to alpha and lower the alpha all the way to 0. And then when it hits about 55, click on it, click on the background greeting. Under color effects, once again, go to alpha and switch it all the way to about, I would say 100 is fine. The next thing I want to do, I want to tween between these two so that it doesn't look like it jumps and turns on and off. So I'm going to select the first frame and shift select the last frame. And what I'm going to do is right click and create a Classic Tween on that. And so now what I have is something that looks like this. Now I can extend the duration of this just by pushing this keyframe. And so I have something like this. I can also insert an in-between keyframe just by pressing F6. And then once again, on that keyframe, on that layer, I can go into the alpha and make sure that it's at 100 right about here and stays that way. Okay, so now you're going to ask yourself, what am I going to do next? Well, I'm going to make one more layer, and this layer will be my text layer. And it's going to be right on top of my greeting panel here, my border. And I'm going to take the text tool, and I'm going to look for good fonts. You can experiment with different kinds of fonts. So this one is not quite it, but you get the point. Seasons, greetings. So let's look for a nice one here. You can also look for some of the script fonts that Adobe Flash provides. This one will be very nice, traditional. And now that I've chosen a font under Character in the Properties window, I want to also change the size of my font. So I'm going to scale this down. And I can also change the color. So since my background is black, I'm going to change the color to a white. And then what I'm going to do is take that beginning frame and move it to the point where the background appears. Move it into position. In fact, I can always go into it if I don't want the font, and if I want to change the font, I can go back into the font, just select it with my text tool, and experiment with some other fonts that I may like. Now at this point, once I'm satisfied with the font and I have the size just correct, what I can do is test that animation. So let's see what we have so far. If we go to Control, Test Movie, we can test it in the Flash Professional environment and create a Swift movie. And there's our leaf. And there's our greeting. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope that you will enjoy creating your very own animation. This is a really great way to send your friends and family postcards or animated greetings. It's always a pleasant surprise. Stay tuned for the next lesson. Take care.